So thank you for your patience, okay? So I'll be giving you lectures regarding the sports consumer behavior, okay? So I'm gonna talk about perspective in sports consumer behavior for this time, okay? 우리 강명진 학생, why is sports consumer very important? Today's topic will be sports consumer behavior, right? So you know the concept of consumer, right? Consumer, why it's very important. Yes, the consumer is, you guys know to understand the kind of target market, right? Target market concept, yeah? Every kind of different stage, the sports marketer to have the chance to meet other consumers, right? Every kind of consumer has different perspective. That's why we have the ability to divide into several groups regarding the sports consumer behavior, okay? So introduction, okay? The large context of general consumer behavior, including various factors that help to explain how people are socialized into involvement in or commitment to sports, okay? But there are the few factors when we divide the sports consumers into several groups, several stages. We have to think about two kinds of factors, okay? The first one will be environmental factor. The second one will be individual factor, okay? So environmental factors, family, fears, cultural norms, social class, structure, race, and gender will be included in environmental factors. So when we talk about individual factors, self-concept, physical characteristics, learning, motivation, and kind of attitude will be included in individual factors, okay? Next one, very important, three kinds of concept, okay? Three terminology you guys have to memorize, okay? The socialization and involvement and commitment. When you guys think about sports consumer behavior, you always have to know those kind of three things, okay? You guys have to know the meaning of socialization and involvement and commitment, okay? The first, I will be talking about socialization, okay? Socialization, what is the definition of socialization? Kind of assimilating and developing the skills, knowledge, attitude, and other equipment necessary to perform various social roles, okay? That's exactly the regarding socialization, okay? Kind of concept of socialization. You guys know anytime the interaction to have the connection between individual, consumer, and environment, okay? The environment, you guys, as you guys see, the three kinds of things: behavior environment, cognitive environment, and affective environment. You guys have to be differentiating, okay? Three kinds of environment. They looks like same thing, but you guys have to differ. Three kinds of things, okay? The first, behavior environment. Playing at practice or in competition, the activities of fans at the game. Just like watching and listening and rooting for the professional team, those kind of things will be included in behavior environment, okay? You guys know the meaning of the environment, right? Kind of social environment. The kind of sports things, you guys watching the kind of professional game, whatever, you guys have to have the feeling to be involved in any kind of sports activity, right? The behavior environment directly means playing at practice or in competition, the activities of fans at a game. Will be thinking about behavior environment. Next one will be cognitive environment. Cognitive environment means the acquisition of information and knowledge about sports. So think about when you kind of have the information regarding sports game and any kind of sports news, you guys reading the magazine and newspapers and game program and radio and television, kind of media things, right? Those kind of things will be included cognitive environment. I mean just the sports consumer, to have the chance to read the newspaper and books, and to have the chance to watch through media, right? For example, TV and radio. That kind of environment we just mentioned, the cognitive environment, okay? So next one, last one will be affective environment. Affective environment means the attitudes and feelings and emotions that a consumer has toward an activity. Okay? The attitudes, feelings, and emotions that a consumer has toward an activity. The kinds of fan loyalty, right? So you just have to watch the baseball game, for example, right? So you do have a chance to root for a unique and special team. Those kind of things, environment, we just mentioned regarding those kind of activity as affective environment, okay? I think the three kinds of things, behavior and cognitive and affective, you guys have to differentiate three kinds of meaning, okay? Those kind of things will be in the final examination, okay? June 17th. We have the last day of the class. You guys will be taking final examination, okay? I will be asking you exactly the meaning of behavior and cognitive and affective environment, okay? Next one will be commitment. I will be talking about commitment. Commitment means frequency, duration, and intensity of involvement in a sport, or the willingness to expend money, time, and energy in a pattern of sports environment. Those kind of things is, I'm just talking about the commitment, okay? Those kind of chart, picture is very, very important, right? So I just have to mention the consumer decision-making process, right? Three kinds of things. When you guys think about the sports consumer behavior, okay, you guys have to think about the three kinds of concepts: terminology, socialization, and environment and commitment, kind of step by step, right? The first step will be socialization, and then you're gonna be involved in any kind of sports franchise. Finally, you will be having the feeling about the commitment, right? So socialization, environment, and commitment will be the consumer decision-making process, okay? I mean, just you guys think about, when you guys think about consumer decision-making process, those kind of three terminology will be applied, okay? When you guys think about the consumer behavior, right? The socialization, environment, commitment, right? Three important things will be applied when you guys think about consumer decision-making process, okay? So environment factors, okay? Environment factors. Cultural norms and values, and class, race, gender, and climatic and geographic conditions, market behavior of sports firms. And last one will be the sports opportunity structure, okay? Those kind of things will be included in environment factors. Cultural norms and values, okay? Cultural norms and values. The values about the sports, right? So character building and fitness and competition. You guys think about the US, right? So the US, United States, will have the kind of unique cultural norms, right? Your country too, Germany and France, the Korea will have different and any kind of unique cultural norms, right? So when we talk about the sports consumer behavior, we have to think about the environment factors, right? So cultural norms will be applied to the environment factors, okay? Skateboarding and rollerblading appeal to adolescents who value creativity and freedom over adult directive regimes. Cultural values and norms influence how and to what level different people get involved in different sports, right? So I just said that, for example, when we think about the environment factors in sports game, I want to be talking about the skateboarding and rollerblading, okay? Those kind of action sports, extreme sports, right? So those kind of things is adolescence kind of cultural norms. Actually, previously, those kind of things, those kind of sports were not popular, right? But at this moment, the kind of social media stage, the adolescents participate at the regional sports kind of activity, and then finally, the skateboarding and rollerblading do have the chance to have their unique cultural norms, right? That's why those kind of industry do have the chance to be developed at the modern stage, okay? The case study, I just prepared for case study when you guys think about the cultural norms, okay? ESPN and X Games. I just explained those kind of things was, right? Previously, 1960s and 1970s, those kind of things, X Games, usually called action sports, right? Those kind of things were not popular, but 1993 ESPN X Games that hosted the event and started the TV program called X Games, at top 3 world major games, X Game and Action Sports Championship at Gravity Game, right? So X Game do have the chance to be developed through media. That's why I just want a previous screen, I was already explained about kind of cultural norms, right? Cultural norms. So when they cultural norm, I mean just the X Game to have the chance to have their unique cultural norms, the ESPN X Game to have the chance to be developed in modern society, okay? It was the result of effective marketing strategy toward the change of cultural norms and values, okay? Next, environmental factors, you can think about class, race, and gender, okay? I will just divide into 3 groups. You guys think regarding the class, right? Elite sports, middle class sports, and working class sports. The elite sports, when you guys think about elite sports, you can, the name, the kind of game, right? Polo, hunt, golf, those kind of things will be included in elite class sports. But how about middle class? Usually the American football and baseball, those kind of things will be included in the middle class sports. But last step will be working class sports. You guys think about boxing, dog fighting, and basketball game will be in working class sports, okay? So elite sports have required great expenses of open space that often are not available to those with lower incomes, okay? Especially in this country, South Korea, the golf is elite sports, right? But time has been changed. Many people enjoy playing golf game, but still the golf will be included in elite sports, right? So middle class, football and baseball. Usually playing the football and baseball and not only playing, but watching those kind of professional game will be included in middle class kind of sports, right? So working class sports, think about that, boxing and dog fighting and basketball. Usually watching, right? Watching basketball things and boxing games, dog fighting will be included in working class sports, right? So I mean just the important thing is depends on class, right? Depends on class, will be the dividing in 3 groups, right? So elite and middle and working class sports, right? So how about race? The race relation have an impact on patterns of sports environment, particularly among people of color, right? So usually when we mention about the class, I just want to explain the kind of black athletes. You guys know the black people, right? So black athletes, dominance. You can think about the basketball and football and track, right? Usually those kind of sports will be black people sports, right? Usually you guys have the chance to watch the NBA and American football game, most of them, right? Most of them are black persons, right? How about the black athletes underrepresentation? Hockey, usually so you guys watching NHL game, right? Most of the athletes are white Americans, right? White Americans and kind of the European people, right? So I mean just white people usually they're playing for ice hockey, right? So how about golf? How about tennis, right? There are exceptions of theirs. Golf and tennis, right? Usually golf and tennis, that kind of sports usually white American sports, right? I mean just white people sports. But Tiger Woods, right? Tiger Woods is a black person, right? The Tiger Woods. How about tennis? I just mentioned about when just talking about the sports marketing regarding golf and tennis. Tiger Woods have a great, important, crucial role, right? So developing sports marketing concept in the golf sports, right? Golf industry, tennis industry. How about tennis? You guys know the Serena Williams, right? I mean just your Williams' sister. Usually, the men's and women's tennis players are white people, right? But Serena Williams and Venus Williams sisters broke their kind of the rule, right? So right now, at this moment, golf and tennis, that sports are not the white American sports anymore, right? So black people do have the chance to participate at those kind of things, right? Those kind of golf and tennis. That's why the golf and tennis industry do have the chance to be developed, right? Because the black people enjoy playing golf and tennis too, right? The blacks appear to excel in certain sports because these sports are available through school and recreation programs and appear as valuable avenues to status and achievement, right? Usually, when you guys think about the basketball and American football game, right? You can think about the great important role of black people. How about baseball? When you guys think about race, 이수담 학생, when you guys think about the Major League Baseball, I mean just at the focus on race, right? Which kind of race is very important? The Hispanic and Asian people are important too, right? Finally, you guys know the Hyunjin Yu, right? Hyunjin Yu from this country, he's playing very nice, right? You guys know how about the Japanese people, right? Japanese baseball player great, right? So you guys think about the Major League Baseball, you should have the important role of Hispanic and Asian baseball players, right? So I mean just the white American and black American, they are also playing good, right? Playing good for MLB, Major League Baseball. But besides them, Asian people and Hispanic people are playing great, right? So I mean just when you guys think about the marketing skills, I mean just the marketing globalization, right? You guys have, when you guys think about the sports marketing, right? You guys have to think about marketing globalization, right? In sports industry. So you guys think about the MLB, the Hispanic and Asian, right? Those kind of two race classes will be very important, right? When MLB sports marketers think about the sports industry being developed, right? So how about gender, right? So lastly, I'll be talking about gender, right? The development of female athletics has been a long struggle. Sports still may be the ultra for many rituals, but females have carved out their own cults with huge numbers of converts, many of whom are male, right? So when you guys, have you heard about Title IX? Title IX? The Title IX, exactly the definition I just mentioned. The Title IX means the federal law that prohibits sex discrimination in federally funded education programs, including athletics, okay? In this screen, I'm just talking about gender, right? So, I mean, just previously, think about that, the male, usually male persons, the play sports game, right? They participate and they play kind of professional or amateur sports game. But at this moment, the female person, female athlete, do have a great role, right? Many popular, the female athletes, right? So we have to think about the role of the female athletes, right? Because previously, those kind of the gender discrimination, the title line is kind of federal law that prohibits sex discrimination, right? The male and female is the same thing, right? So title line is kind of directly the federal law that prohibits sex discrimination in federally funded education programs, including athletics, right? A major force among spectators are female persons, right? So females make up over 40% of the fan base in American football, indoor soccer, and auto racing, right? So females make up over 40% of the fan base. How about this country's baseball, right? When you guys go to have the chance to go to baseball stadium, you do have the chance to see many female persons rooting for their team, right? Previously, think about that. Usually, the baseball is men's sports. But at this moment, many female persons go to the stadium watching the baseball or soccer game, right? So, sports marketers have to think about the role of the female person, right? Now, not only the athletes, but also spectators, right? I'm just talking about the role of the female spectators, right? The female thing is sports marketers have to think about the role of female person, okay? I'm just repeating title line. Title line, kind of the definition of title line will be in your final examination, okay? Title line, you just hear the right. Just hear the brief sentence, right? The next one, I'll be talking about just an individual factor, right? Self-concept, stage in the life cycle, and physical characteristic, and learning process, and perception, and motivation, and attitudes will be included in individual factor, right? So previously, when I just explained regarding the environmental factor, right? I just before giving you guys the lecture, I told you there are two kinds of important factors, right? First one will be environmental factors, but second one will be individual factor, right? Self-concept, self-images, ways in which we view ourselves and perceived on or affirmed self-image, how others view us, and desire or ideal self-image, how we would like to be, and reference group selves. That means image, how we interact with particular reference group, and real self is what we truly are and never will know, right? So when we guys think about the sports consumer behavior, right? So we thinking about kind of individual factors. You guys do have chance to see these athletes' pictures? Who is he? Yeah, Dennis Rodman, right? Stage in life cycle will be one additional kind of personal factors, individual factors. Preparation periods, I mean just the youth stage and courtship stage. And establishment periods, how about that? Singles, marriage, maturity. How about reintegration periods, retirement, and singles? Those kind of things is kind of stage in your life cycle. Physical characteristic also plays a major role in sports consumer behavior, right? The physical disabled, Paralympics and Olympics. You guys know the Paralympics, right? And every time, after summer and winter Olympic, right? So summer and winter Olympic, every country will be hosting every 4 years, right? After summer and winter Olympic, every time, the same city, right? Same hosting city, they do have the chance to host another event for handicapped person, right? Those kind of Olympics, we usually call those kind of sports event Paralympics, right? So I mean just the important thing, based on physical characteristic, we can divide into two groups, right? So physical disabled things and physical able things. The example will be Paralympic versus Olympic Games, right? How about running process? Running process means the acquisition of new responses to behavior cues in the environment occurring as the result of reinforcement. Three components in this definition drives or arousal mechanism that cause an individual to act. The second one will be cues or environmental stimuli that may trigger the drive. And last one will be the reinforcement or outcomes that serve to reduce the driver, okay? The next one will be perception. Perception can be described as a process by which a person scans, gathers, assesses, and interprets information in the environment. Some examples will be like that, kind of facility cleanliness, exposure to violence, risk of injury or embarrassment, and waste of money. Those kind of things will be included. Will be great example for perception, okay? Most advertisements try to overcome or even reshape perception in order to reposition their product in the consumer's minds, right? So think about that, consumer's mind. When sports marketer always have to think about the kind of sports consumer behavior, right? What is the sports consumer behavior? The kind of mental thing, right? So not only physical things. You just think about the perception, right? Kind of the right. How about the hate? You guys, the sports marketer always understand the feeling of sports consumer, right? I mean, just in the developing and sports franchise, in the perspective of sports industry, right? Sports marketer always have to know the perception, emotional perception of sports consumers, right? How about motivation? Motivation can be defined as environmental stimuli that activate the drive to satisfy an underlying need. Some factors that motivate a person in sports environment. The example will be achievement, craft, affiliation or community, health and fitness, and fun and festival, and erotic motifs. Those kind of things will be the great example for motivation. Motivation also, the sports marketer, when they think about sports consumers' behavior, usually focus on individual factors. The previous screen, I just explained the perception, right? So perception and motivation, both of them will be very, very important factors that influence sports consumers' mind, right? How about attitude? Cultural's definition, according to cultural's definition, attitude means a person's enduring favorable or unfavorable cognitive evaluation and emotional feelings and action tendencies towards some object or idea, okay? So fans' attitudes influences their perception of enjoyment. So positive attitude towards sports and exercise do not always trigger positive behavior, okay? Those kind of steps is very important, right? You have to memorize whole kind of step, okay? Whole step. I will be giving you the final examination, those kind of things, right? Decision-making process for sports environment. I mean, just think about that, sports consumer behavior, socialization, and environment, and commitment. Those three kind of terminology will be very important, right? So the sports environment is especially the important thing when you guys think about consumer behavior, right? So you guys have to know the decision-making process for sports environment, right? So think about that, decision-making. When they try to have the chance to be involved in any kind of sports activity, sports consumer must have the decision-making process, right? Today, do I have to go to baseball stadium? Why? Those kind of things will be the decision-making process, right? The sports consumer have to think about whole steps, right? The first step will be need recognition, And second step will be awareness or information search. I mean just searching information, right? And next step will be the evaluating of choices. Evaluating of choices. The next step will be purchasing decision, right? Purchase decision, I mean just you guys go to baseball stadium, you just purchase the admission ticket for entering into baseball stadium or any kind of sports facility. Those kind of steps will be purchasing decision, right? So last step will be sports experience, right? Sports experience, when you guys watching baseball game is the kind of the indirect sports experience, right? I mean just stimulating sports experience will be the last step. And finally, any kind of sports consumer to have the chance to evaluating of the experience, right, regarding sports behavior. Right? Makes sense, right? Sixth step, you guys have to remember and know the whole steps, okay? So when you guys think about decision-making process for sports involvement, okay? The evaluation of experience is the good and crucial process, right? When sports consumers satisfied for their sports experience, they will be repeating their behavior, right, regarding the sports involvement. But they just are not satisfied, right? Their sports involvement, they just drop out their sports involvement, right? The two kinds of things. So that's why the evaluation of the experience, kind of feedback process, will be the crucial process for decision making for sports environment, right? In the consumer's mind. Need recognition will be first step. Second step will be searching information. Usually countless studies of sports environment point to the importance of importance. There is the possibility that consumers are unaware of the product. Marketers must consider the critical stage, right? The next step will be evaluation of choices. Consumers make product choices at a number of levels, right? Next step will be purchase decision, right? Planned, calculated, unplanned, impulsive. Wake-up fans and season ticket holders require different methods, for example, right? The next step will be sports experience. Finally, evaluation experience will be the last step for decision making for sports environment, okay? You guys clear, right? So decision making process for sports environment, you guys have to put those kind of concepts into your brain, please, okay? That will be in your final exam, okay? Today's lecture, that's it. I'm done. And after 10 to 15 minute break, the group ACE will be presenting their step regarding the Olympic industry, right? Okay, thank you very much. After 10 to 15 minutes, you guys should be back, okay? So to listen to students' presentation, okay?